Hello, good morning everyone out there. Welcome to another Till 5 Dev Hour stream. Today, as you may be able to see on my desktop right now, we are going to be taking a little bit of a look at Godot. I personally have been very interested in checking out the Godot engine. It has a lot of possibilities, and I'm really interested in it as an alternative to Unity, especially given some of the announcements that Unity has made earlier this year. There's definitely going to be some interest in looking at other alternatives, especially for Till 5 and what other engines might work with it. And for anyone who follows our Discord, you may note that there has recently been a Godot plugin that's been worked on. Now, I'm hoping to get to dive into that plugin hopefully next week with some of the team over at Godot. But before that, I need to make sure I am familiar with Godot myself. So that's what today is going to be. We are going to be doing a little bit of digging into the Godot engine, just trying to get a vibe for how the system as a whole works, so that when we take a look at the Tilt 5 plugin, it's a little bit easier to approach. So for anyone that is looking to follow along, I am going to be going through the kind of Godot tutorials, just learning a lot about the stuff that's on there, maybe talking about some of the stuff as I see it. And yeah, we're hopefully going to get to try out one of their, once we get through some of their introductory stuff, we'll try and make a game. We're probably going to start with a 2D game, just that's how the tutorial begins. But once we're done with that, we'll move into looking at their 3D game engine and seeing what we can do. So the first thing that I am noticing here with the Godot engine is kind of an interesting change from what I'm used to with Unity. Everything is done in what they call nodes. Nodes and scenes. Scenes are very interesting in that they, on one hand, act a lot like scenes from Unity, but on another hand, they're also prefabs at the same time. They're essentially a bundled set of components, and you can nest scenes amongst each other. You can also kind of pair a bunch of them together. Let's see. You can put your character in a level and drag and drop a scene as a child of it. Yeah. A scene is composed of one or more nodes. Nodes are your game's smallest building blocks that you arrange into trees. Here's an example of a character's node. So a player character, the whole set, like the prefab, might have, for example, a sprite, a collider, and a camera. To me, it sounds like nodes can almost be thought of more as the components of Unity, whereas scenes act as both, like, as the object and, yeah, scenes are the objects and nodes are the components. That's kind of my current understanding. It's made of a character body 2D node named player, camera 2D, a sprite 2D, and a collision shape 2D. Spatial. Notice how nodes and scenes look at an editor. When you save a tree of nodes as a scene, it then shows as a single node, which is its internal structure hidden in the editor. Node provides external base node types so you can combine and extend to build more powerful ones. Alright, let's take a look at some of these nodes. What have we got here? Viewports, canvas items. What's under node 3D? Interesting. Oh, they do have XR node stuff. Cool. Origin, vehicle wheel, spring arm, skeleton, shape cast, remote transform, raycast, path 3D, path follow, open XR hand, navigation region, joint 3D. Cool. Collision shaped 3D. I like that. XR camera. Cool, cool. And collision object 3D. Physics body. Okay. We got rigid body, physical bone, character body, and static body. Okay, so static body can't move by external forces. When moved manually, doesn't affect other bodies in its path. Cool. Characters move by script. makes bones and skeleton react to physics. Interesting. Is moved by a physics simulation. Yeah, cool. How games scenes come together in a scene tree, literally a tree of scenes. And the scenes are trees of nodes. The scene tree is also is a tree of nodes. Do you think of your game in terms of scenes as they can open a capture node or your user interface? Let's see. Okay. Nodes emit signals when some event occurs. Feature allows you to make nodes communicate without hardwiring them in code. So it's like heavily message based. That's pretty common technique in Unity, is you end up implementing some kind of messaging system between your nodes or your components or your objects. I like that it's a fundamental aspect of the system. So let's add, let's see, so if I create a new node 3D, what have we got here? So if I want to do, let's see if I was, oh, actually, let me make a 3D scene. Okay. And then if I add a child node, what do I need? I need a camera 3D. No, I want to use character body. Where is character body? Okay, there we go. So we do a character body 3D. Let's rename this player. So it can't collide or interact with other objects. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's add a camera. Start with camera 3D. Also add a sprite. 3D sprite is an interesting way of wording that. I'm gonna have to look into that more later because I don't fully understand that. And collision shape. 3D, which it's unhappy about. Needs a shape resource. Oh, okay. Wall boundary. Block shape, classic. Okay, I like the sliders. Those are much easier to see than Unity's stupid green boxes. Fully symmetric on this one, it seems. Okay, so I gave him a little collider shape. Texture is currently empty. What if I just new canvas texture? Doesn't do anything yet. Alright, we'll have to learn a little bit more about that later. Let's keep going. Just want to try out messing around with some of the node structures here just to get a little bit of a feel for it. Actually, let me...
It should be.
For whatever reason, my OBS chat is like constantly reconnecting and I'm not 100% sure it's working, so I am going to pull up my own stream just to make sure I can actually see the chat, because that's very strange. Yep. If anyone has any questions at any point or want to ask anything or just talk, hi Platypus, glad to have you back with us. I want to make sure I can actually see everything. Cool. Alright, so getting back into it. Scene tree. All your game scenes come together in the scene tree. Literally tree scenes. Yes. Modes met signals. Okay. Project manager. That's pretty straightforward. Godot's editor. Viewport with its toolbar at the top. Cool. Bottom panel. Oh. Yeah. Okay. See that. File system. Scene doc. List your active scene nodes. Yep. Switch to the properties of a selected node. Yep. That makes sense. So I got like a camera 2D. Let's see. Cool. On panel, 4 main screens. Top 2D, 3D, script, and asset lib. (2D, 3D, script, asset lib). Oh! Oh, it's the asset store. Well, that's nice. That is very convenient. I like that. We're going to get into some scripts later. Okay. Interesting. Ooh, okay. There's a lot of cool useful tools here. Good to know. Oh, the script screen is just an editor. I like an engine that has the editor built in. As much as I love using Visual Studio, it's a little more convenient for the actual editor and debugger just to be a whole part of the system, especially since it already has all the code references and auto-completion, all that stuff. Built-in class reference. Class. Oh, the API docs are within the engine. It's so helpful. Oh my god, that's so useful. One of my biggest gripes about both Unreal Engine and Unity is their documentation is horrific sometimes. It is... Unity is really good at creating tutorials, but digging through tutorials is not useful when you have a question on how to implement something and you're trying to figure out which tools will enable you to do that and how you use those tools. And in particular, how you use certain tools in Unity is often only half explained in their documentation, and a lot of it just kind of becomes figuring it out. But you also have to, dig through their external references to find it. And having it built into the engine just feels incredibly convenient. I look through API docs all the time to figure out stuff. Let's see. Okay. Godot's design philosophy. This is something I'm just curious to read for a second. How Godot works. So it's an object-oriented design at its core, flexible scene system and node hierarchy, and stay away from strict programming patterns to offer an intuitive way to structure the game. Interesting. Along Godot lets you compose or aggregate scenes. Yep, it's like nested prefabs. You can create a blinking light scene and a broken lantern scene that uses the blinking light, then create a city filled with broken lanterns, change the blinking light's color, save, and all the broken lanterns in the city will update instantly. Interesting. On top of that, you can... that's okay. That was the next thing. You can inherit from any scene. A Godot scene could be a weapon, a character, an item, a door, a level, part of a level, anything you like. It works like a class in pure code, except you're free to design it by using the editor, using only the code, or mixing and matching the two. Interesting. Different from prefabs you find several 3D engines, you can then inherit from and extend those scenes. You create a magician that extends your character class, modify the character in the editor, and the magician will update as well. Helps you build your project so that their structure matches the game's design. Interesting. Okay, so now I have this new okay. Also, the Godot offers many different types of objects called node. Nodes are part of a tree and always inherit from their parents up to the node class. Well, the engine does feature some nodes like collision shapes that a parent physics body will use. Most nodes work independently from one another. In other words, Godot nodes do not work like components in some other game engines. Okay. Struct 2D is a node 2D, a canvas item, and a node. Oh, okay. I'm looking at this explanation here, and it's saying distinct from how components function in Unity, which are discrete bodies. The class of inheritance, this sprite 2D, it's also a node 2D and a canvas item. Very interesting. Dedicated scripting workspace, animation, time editor, shader editor, debugger, profile ability to hot reload locally and on remote devices. Okay. We also offer a full package to create games and continuous user experience. You can still work with the external program as long as there's import to create like tiled map importer. With GDScript along. GDScript is designed for the needs of game developers and game designers and tightly integrated in the engine and the editor. GDScript lets you write code using indentation-based... not indentation-based syntax, no! Yeah, it detects types and... Okay. And offers a static language quality of auto-completion. It's also optimized for gameplay code with built-in types like vectors. That's good, at least. Note that with GD extension, you can write high-performance code using compiler languages like C, C++, Rust, or Python without recompiling the engine. And the 3D workspace doesn't feature as many tools as the 2D works. Oh, interesting. The 3D workspace is more limited than the 2D workspace. When external programs or add-ons add terrains, animate complex characters, and so on, Godot provides a complete API to extend the editor's functionality using game code. See, the Godot editor is a game. A Godot game. Open source. Yes. Community-driven. The Godot editor is a Godot game. You can run any game code in the editor. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Doing a step-by-step real quick. Nodes are the fundamental building blocks. All nodes have the following characteristics: name, editable properties. You receive callbacks to update every frame. Sounds good. You can extend them with new properties and functions. You can add them to another node as a child. Together, nodes form a tree, which is a powerful feature to organize projects. Since different nodes have different functions, combining them produces more complex behavior. As you saw before, you can build a playable character the camera follows using a character body 2D node named character a sprite 2D node, a camera 2D node, and a collision shape 2D node. When you organize nodes in a tree, like our character, we call this construct a scene. Once saved, scenes work like new node types in the editor where you can add them as a child of an existing node. Okay? In that case, the instance of the scene appears as a single node with its internals hidden. Interesting. This is definitely going to take some getting used to. Alright. Scenes allow you to structure your game's code however you want. You can compose nodes to create custom and complex node types, a game character that runs and jumps, a life bar, a chest with which you can interact, and more. The Godot editor essentially is a scene editor. It has plenty of tools for editing 2D and 3D scenes, as well as user interfaces. Godot project contains as many of these scenes as you need. One requires one as your application's main scene. This is the scene Godot will first load when you or a player runs the game. Cool. On top of acting like nodes, scenes have the following characteristics. They always have one root node, like the character in our example. You can save them to your local drive and load them later. You can create as many instances of a scene as you'd like. You can have 5 or 10 characters in your game created from a character scene. Okay. Create a new project. Control these presets are other node existing node to be an empty scene. Other nodes will come to press an add child node button at the top left of the scene node, which usually adds a new node as a child node. Add a single label node to our scene. Well, let's just delete all this. It's fine. Other node. Label. I like label 3D. Okay. Things in those properties. Alright, seems pretty straightforward. Modulate. Okay. Change the color very easily. I like that. And outline, if I want it to be. Ooh, that looks terrible. Cool. Font. So this is their default font. Not a bad default font. As you type, you can move your label on the viewport by selecting the tool. Label selected, click and drag anywhere in the viewport, move it to the center of view delimited by the rectangle. Running the scene. Play scene. Ah. I see nothing. That kind of makes sense. There's no cameras, no nothing. I don't actually know where the viewport is for a 3D. How do I locate it? And what axis? So this is an interesting question. What axis does the 2D use relative to the 3D? It's looking like green and red, which is okay. So why can I not see this? WSD while holding right click. Cool. Take this label, move it up, over. Does it? It doesn't appear here. It's interesting. Interesting. Oh, you can auto billboard. That is very convenient. I like that. Double-sided, shaded, fixed size, alpha cut. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so I don't see anything as of yet, but let's try adding just a 2D label instead. Nope. And detach. Make the scene root. Delete this. Oh, it's tiny. That's why I couldn't see it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I'm assuming. Okay, how do I? Nope. Is the scroll the only way to move around? That seems a little bit tedious. Alright. Hey! That compiles fast. I like that. Alright. We saw something on the screen. We've made our first Godot scene. It's a success. That is all we really needed. We're basically done now, right? We got text on a screen. Let's see what else we can do. Stuff on the scene. Label, yep. Exactly, Claire. Okay, so we can always change the main scene and project settings in the future, but for now, let's see. C is a collection of nodes organized in a tree structure with a single node as its root. You can split it into any number of scenes. This feature helps you break down and organize your game's different components. You can create as many scenes as you'd like and save them as files with the TSCN extension, which stands for text scene. The labeled TSCN file from the previous lesson was an example. We called these files packed scenes as they pack information about your scene's content. Makes sense. Here's a ball composed of a rigid body node. So if I want to make a new scene, oh, this is so interesting. So new scene, let's say we want to make, so 2D scene, oh, no, not that. Delete, yes. Other node, rigid, so we're gonna do a rigid body 2D, the root. I'm gonna rename it a mall. And then I'm going to add a sprite 2D. Can I just do a sprite? What's the difference between sprite 2D and sprite? There is no sprite, it's just sprite 2D. Okay. And then a collision shape. Collision shape 2D. Which is gonna be rectangle. Wow, everything is so small by default. So tiny. Oh, whoops. I should not have moved the collision shape. I should have moved the whole ball. I like that it shows when you're hovering over. I also like at the bottom that they give you a step-by-step of both what you're doing and the exact values and locations that you've moved things to, that is incredibly helpful when going back and forth between code. I can't tell you the number of times I've forgotten where I just put something and immediately had to like change everything. What is... And a measuring tool? Oh, I love this. But first, I want to change the scale. Cool. We're gonna make this like 10. I just need something a little bit bigger. Why is it unhappy? Oh, doesn't like that. Okay. Odd. So it wants me to change the size here. Oh. It wants me to manually change the size like that. Hold on, we don't need to save that yet. And then sprite. We don't have a sprite yet. It's so small. Huh. Still don't know how to... How does one... Okay. Interesting. Let's see. Okay. I want... What do I want here? I want... Is there an in-engine texture editor? Because that would be very useful. Oh. Oh, very nice of them. They have provided some instancing stuff. So we've got this instancing starter pack. Okay, so we don't need this. We're gonna go project. Quit to project list. We don't need this ball. Okay, so we're coming back in. Import button. Import. Browse. Nope. We're going into downloads. Is that where it is? Yeah. There it is. That's fine. They gotta update their instancing starter, still on 4.0. Okay. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Interesting. Only wall container. So they've got a main. Click. This is a Godot icon. Ball. Cool. Okay, so I'm trying to see how some of the projects generally get structured with our assets folder. We usually have a main scene, and then we also have this. I assume the blue likely means that's the one that's set as the main run scene. So if I just go to 2D, hit play. Yeah, cool. That one's very smooth. I like the physics engine. Just keep instancing. Let's see how the physics. Oh, that's interesting. I like watching it propagate across as things kind of get shoved in. You kind of see it shove other things out of the way, but the way it like shakes across is very interesting. This makes me feel like I could make a Suika game clone very, very quickly with Godot Engine. Suika game is that game that's been all over Twitch with the fruit that like you drop the fruit and they merge, and then they kind of just as they merge they might push other fruit out and stuff like that. You could probably make that super easily. Maybe I'll talk to Bastion and we can make that our project for next year. We'll do a 3D Suika game. Cool. Okay. Let's see. We imported. That's pretty easy. In the scene doc, select the main node. And click the link icon at the top of the scene doc. Add instance of a scene as a child currently selected. Oh, okay. Add a ball. Seems straightforward. Cool. Do have a duplicate command, convenient. Oh, interesting. It doesn't. You always keep that one. Interesting. Okay, so it goes off of the canvas there. Good to know. Let's do some physics tests. So rotate, okay. So Q is move. W is just transform. E is rotate. R is measure. Do I get it? No. Do I get a scale? No. How do I make something bigger? I mean, I can always do this, but this is like not my favorite way of scaling. Especially since it really doesn't like me scaling the parent. Yeah, okay. That is something I have a question about. Oops, that's all I want. Oh, yeah. So, how do you uniquely change, like, once the scene's been built, how do I make it larger? Because it gets unhappy with me if I scale it manually like that. Let's see. So pan mode, ruler mode, smart snap, grid snap, snapping, lock selected nodes, Scale mode. Ah, there is a scale mode. Okie dokie, but it still gets unhappy. Whoa. That's a weird scale. I don't know what's going on there. So, what happens to that bigger ball? It gets shrunk. Okay. They fall so fast. Alright. So the fact that it gets shrunk is very interesting to me. So open the ball, select the ball node. I can change all kinds of things. Ah, okay, you can expand the physics material. You can increase the bounce. Rough, friction, absorbent. Very interesting. There's a lot of cool tools in this game. So that should change all of my nodes. All of my balls now should bounce more. Look at that. Bouncy balls. Wow, that's a lot of bounce. Oh, that's interesting. There's no dampening on it. Huh. Or is... I can't tell. Is there? No, there is dampening. Sort of? I think it's somehow gaining height. That feels physically impossible. Well, it's certainly very bouncy. Huh. Interesting. Alright, so we'll stop that. So I can revert a lot of stuff very easily. Cool. And if I want to... Oh, okay, wow, you can really scale that gravity up. Let's just change the gravity scale to 1. Or to 10. So that should fall faster. If you change a value on the physics material of one instance, it'll affect all. This is because physics material is a resource, and resources are shared between instances. So to give it a unique, I would have to make unique. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right. Engines and scenes in Godot offer an excellent design language, setting the engine apart from others out there. We designed Godot around this concept from the ground up. Dismissing architectural code patterns when making games with Godot, such as model view controller or entity relationship diagrams. Instead, start by imagining the elements players will see in your game and structure your code around them. For example, you could break down a shooter game like so. Stage contains enemy, HUD, obstacle, another enemy, a player's ship. The enemy might instantiate missiles. A player's weapon might instance more weapon nodes. That's interesting. I'm not sure about what that. I'm currently looking at this document that is explaining how they do class structures and breakdowns. Terrain. It's easy. Okay, so it's a very different structure. Very component based. Break things down into their subcomponents and kind of build them up from there. I think the only thing I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble getting used to initially is kind of the differentiation between resources, individual nodes, and I guess when nodes get treated together, that becomes a scene, which can then act as an individual node in the future. But knowing when, like, at what level you need to break your scene, because theoretically you don't ever need to break your scenes apart if you don't want to. You could just make a single scene with an infinite tree of nodes, but that sounds really, really bad. So you have to get used to kind of knowing when to parcel things out as individual components. Scripting languages: GDScript, C#, C and C++. I will probably be using GDScript to start, just to get used to it. I know that the Tiltify plugin mostly uses GDScript, so that is going to be a kind of good place for us to align on. I need to get a little used to some of the GDScript lingo. GDScript object-oriented and terraforming built for Godot. It's made by and for game developers to save you time coding games. Its features include a simple syntax that leads to short files, blazing fast compilation and loading times, tight editor integration with code completion for nodes, signals, and more information from the scene it's attached to. Built-in vector and transform types make it efficient for heavy use of linear algebra, a must for games. That is good. Supports multiple threads as efficiently as statically typed languages. Okay. Interesting. No garbage collection. Interesting. As this feature eventually gets in the way when creating games, the engine counts references and manages the memory for you in most cases. By default, you can also control memory if you need to. Gradual typing. Variables have dynamic types by default, but you also can use type hints for strong type checks. Seems to be a combination of Squirrel, Lua, and Python. Yeah, years ago, Godot used Python, then Lua. For example, 30 support was a big challenge with Python. That makes sense. That's why they stopped using Python. So they made their own. Cool. C# is quite popular. Let's see. Seems like they heavily encourage the use of GDScript, which makes sense. I am happy to stick with their language for the time being. I can't tell if my internet's doing something weird. I feel like I've been dropping. I'm worried that the stream has been like dropping frames or something. No, it says it's not dropping frames, but why do I keep losing internet? Oh, do I? Hold on. Is NordVPN doing something stupid on my computer? Recently in another country and needed to use NordVPN to access okay. Yeah, looks like we're live. I don't know what just happened there. I think me turning off NordVPN decided to insert itself, and me turning it off made things get very unhappy for a second. But I think we're back. Alright, thank you, AJ. Cool. I don't know why that was happening. It's very weird. Alright. Well, that's all fixed. We're going to make a new project. Alright, so we're going to quit the project list. Let's go back into my test project. Just as a label, let's get rid of that. Okay. I also don't need this. Yeah, that's fine. Alright. Hold on. Oh, okay. There we go. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a Sprite 2D. Scene tab, yep. Text display. But I can do that. Hey, look at that. Easy to display Godot icon. Very convenient. Okay, now what I've been wanting to do here is we're going to attach a script. Here's Sprite 2D. Okay, we're actually going to do object empty. Alright, let's create it. Cool. So I have this GDScript. So this is the scene. This is the script. Interesting. And then script. You can see a script here. Okay. Every GDScript file is implicitly a class that extends here or defines a class the script inherits or extends. In this case, it's Sprite2D. Our script will get access to all the properties and functions of a Sprite2D node, including classes that extend like Node2D, Canvas item, and Node. Inherited properties include the ones you can see in the inspector doc, like the node's texture. By default, the inspector displays the node properties in title case. Capitalized words separated by default. The node's properties in title case. Okay. Interesting. Just for fun, do knit Hello world. Cool. I'm gonna have to train myself to turn off the auto semicolon in my finger. I want to do it so badly. Okay. Class constructor. Every object or node upon creating in memory if you define this function. Cool. So that should be all we need. Even if I fix it here, it says hello world. Cool. Look at that. Oh, that is incredibly convenient, just being able to pull up the docs for something. Let's see, so it has centered, whether we focus on the vertical, frame for animation, frame quarter, offset region. I don't know what some of this stuff does, but texture 2D, cool. Is pixel opaque. Okay, so there's signals that we can listen for here. Breakdown. This, I really appreciate a clear breakdown. Unity would pretty much leave it at like this top section, and having this individual breakdown of the properties is very, very useful and much more clear. I appreciate this immensely. Okay, cool. Good to know. So, following the tutorial, we're going to add 2 variables. Angular speed equals pi. Oh. They just have variable pi. Okay. I was like, what? Is this some kind of weird syntax? No, that's just the number pi. After adding some lines before functions, every node instance of the script attached to it will have its own copy of the speed and angular properties. Okay, good. Angles in Godot work in gradients by default. We have built-in function property available if you prefer to calculate angles and degrees instead. 2 of our icon range updates position rotation every frame in the game loop. We can use the process virtual function of the node class. If you define any class that extends the node class like Sprite2D, Godot will call the function every frame and pass it an argument named delta, the time elapsed since the last frame. I love it. Func process. So it gets past delta, and then rotation is interesting. So rotation is just a known property already. Plus equals your speed times delta. I wonder what the symbol on the side mean. I assume it's some kind of general typing. There's a name, argument, takes in parentheses. Alright, so right now, if I run this, It spins. Look at that. Nice and smooth, too. Turn in place, and then... Okay, so then we want to add var velocity equals vector2 dot up dot rotated by rotation. That's interesting. Times speed and position plus equals velocity times delta. This is just Unity's delta time, small increment. This is how fast we want it to rotate in radians. This is how fast we want to move forward. And then this is an interesting one. I guess it's a positive. No. What are their axes? I don't actually. Let's find out. This is. Yeah, negative y. Okay, so it's a. I'm guessing up is just a negative y vector, and then they rotate it to accommodate. So we're rotating that to fix the direction we want to go. Is always whatever up relative to our player is. It's interesting that there isn't inherently an up vector for the player. You have to take a generic up vector and rotate it. I suppose it achieves the same purpose, but whee, cool. To make the move forward, we start with the vector class is constant. And rotate by calling vector2 method is a vector point 4 relative to our icon multiplied by our speed. Blah blah. All right. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our hour for today. I think I am starting to understand the general design philosophies and structures of Godot. There are certain things that I'm like, that was an interesting choice, but in general, I am very appreciative of all of the design components here. I am very excited to keep working with this engine and see what kind of things are possible. So I'm going to take a little bit of learning to get into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff, but I think this could be a very fun alternative to Unity, and I'm in particular excited to see what kinds of potential come from doing some 3D Tilt 5 development in it. I really love both how lightweight it is and how the unique node design structure. I think it's going to make for some very interesting and easy to kind of approach games. So for now, that's what we're going to call it. But I hope to see you guys all next time. So have a lovely week. Happy holograms.